And I said, well, what did you do? He goes, well, first I went to Eli Lilly, changed their branding. Hey, you're no longer a drug company. You help the world. The second thing he goes, I had them do was spin out some nonprofit companies. One of the nonprofits, he said, was a company which said, we need to protect battered women. And that organization took out ads, which was full-page ads, which would, if you saw it in a newspaper, would say, is your husband beating you? Do you know of someone, one of your friends, whose husband is beating them? Make sure they're taking Prozac. So they create a narrative of we're trying to help the distressed, and we are the drug company. We want to help all these darkies in Africa and India, etc. You know, we need GMOs. Gates is a savior. These guys are very clever at spending millions of dollars to create the narratives of helping the quote-unquote the oppressed, and then they will inject them with their pharmaceutical drugs. These indigenous people actually knew how to take care of their health, but they don't want us to believe in our grandmothers. They want to believe in this idiot, okay, Bill Gates, who, by the way, never created DOS. He didn't write 50,000 lines of code I did. You know, his mama and papa introduced him to people and bought someone else's DOS and flipped it. But he's a Harvard dropout, and he was able to patent his stuff, so he gets to be a gazillionaire. You see what I'm saying? Or a Zuckerberg. So these guys have built false histories of their eminence in the technology field. They leverage it to say they're going to be saviors, and that savior solution is not food, is not exercise activities. It's about injections into the bloodstream of people and to control them. That's what they're talking about. And every American needs to wake up that the lawyer lobbyists, the people I'm running against 3 lawyer lobbyists, I'm the only scientist or an inventor, a guy who works for a living. These lawyer lobbyists are the people who implement the desires of the deep state. That's what's going on. So what we're witnessing right before us should be a wake-up call to every person. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, Independent. The issue of health goes beyond all those parties. And what you will realize, all of those establishment parties want to hurt you and want to control you. They want to make you a little atomic unit where you become a revenue generator for people like Fauci's clan and these kind of people. And no academic at MIT, Harvard will say anything. You know why? Because they owe their grant money to people like Fauci. Because it's a cabal. If you say anything, you're out. That's what happened to Peter Duesberg.
Wow.
So that's what we're dealing with. And unfortunately, the president, he may have good gut instincts, but he's not able to expose these people. I have had calls from senior level economists all over the country saying, Shiva, I saw your videos. You need to keep doing them. The president is being bamboozled by this circle around him. And that's why I wrote that letter, Gary. That letter basically lays out in 4 pages very clearly what the problem is, that you have a fake science of the immune system. Here's the real science. And I actually proposed to the president a protocol, which is basically vitamin A, D, C, and some iodine. And I said, let's triage people into 4 groups. Those people COVID, let's put them in one group. Those people are immunocompromised, let's give them this group. Those people who are in critical care, let's give them a particular IV vitamin C. And the third group, who are healthy, let's give them some maintenance dose and get them back to work. That's what we should be doing, not one-size-fit-all medicine. This is treat everyone like they're basically part of the, some deep state party, right? We're just minions. And in fact, in 2003, when I went back to MIT to pursue my PhD, MIT created a new department called biological engineering, which I was one of the first early graduates. And one of the tenets at that time was personalized medicine, the right medicine for the right person at the right time. So people like Fauci aren't even practicing modern medicine. He's practicing outdated fake science medicine. It's criminal.
Now, you're currently running for Senate in Massachusetts as a Republican against Ed Markey.
Massachusetts is really the epicenter of the deep state. That's what Massachusetts is. It's not Washington, D.C. If you actually take the deep state and you put a microscope, you go to 100x and you go deeper and deeper zoom, then you start seeing the swamp scum. And then if you go deeper, you find out the connective tissue of the swamp scum is a bunch of lawyers and lobbyists. And that swamp scum comes in a 1-mile radius between MIT and Harvard, all of them. Our election for U.S. Senate is no longer a U.S. Senate race for Massachusetts. We have so many volunteers coming from below, a lot of mothers, women, and as well as from outside of Massachusetts, because they see this as an election for truth, freedom, and health. They want one of them fighting for them, a working class kid who worked his butt off. I'm running against 3 potential guys, right? Markey, who's been in Congress for 50 years. People should start asking, What can you make? Can you make a piece of software? Can you build a bridge? Do you know how to fix nothing. Because they were afraid that I would beat him, they ran another dope, Joe Kennedy. Again, a nice, guy who's a liberal aristocrat. $70,000 private schools for high school, gets into Harvard Law School, gets a nice DA job on the Cape where he can hang out with his family, hang out in the sun. And now he believes this is his inheritance. Already has $50 million in inheritance, and God knows how he made that, right? He didn't. Everything I've earned, everything you've earned, most of us earn money for a living, right? These guys have no skills, nothing. And then when they knew that I'd probably beat him, Gary, they decided to run in some other moronic lawyer who's got like 100 Twitter followers in the GOP establishment. But the bottom line is this election in Massachusetts is really going to be the dialectic that represents what's going on in this country. Producers versus parasites. That's what we're looking at. Do we want to vote for producers, people who make stuff, or do we want to continue voting for parasites? And especially in a time of crisis like this, who do we want helping us? Look at who Trump's surrounded with. He's surrounded with vipers right now. Total vipers. There are really three forces in any political situation. Two of them are against the people. Only one of them is for the people. One of the forces is the existing overt establishment, openly out there to want to screw people. And everyone says, oh, yeah, they're the establishment, right? And then you have everyday people on the ground who want to change things. But in between change agents and the establishment comes a third group, what I call the NSOE, the not so obvious establishment. It's almost like a force of nature. And the not so obvious establishment is created by the establishment that speaks the rhetoric of change like Warren was just doing. I want to help the grassroots. They act as though they're for the people. When what they do is they exist to speak that rhetoric, to sucker young people who want change into their vacuum, and they suck them back into the establishment. Controlled opposition, Gary. That's what Warren is all about. She talks about she cares for people, all of this and that, but ultimately what she cares about is strengthening state capitalism, crony capitalism. And you can see that in a very simple way. The way you can test these guys on it is they always want to do regulations, right? And ultimately what you realize, regulations actually help the big guys. So she supported Dodd-Frank. Dodd-Frank actually supported banking regulations, which only 5 of the big bankers could afford. And it destroyed nearly 2,000 to 3,000, 4,000 small banks. What made America great, and hopefully will continue to, is the small banks. We have 12,000 small banks. You want to get a loan, you build a relationship with your local banker. You don't have to go to a behemoth bank like in other countries. So Elizabeth Warren's policy of regulatory policies help the big guys. Mark Zuckerberg right now wants to be regulated. You know why? Because he can keep out smaller Facebooks out because only he can be able to afford regulatory policies. So it's a backhanded way of supporting the establishment. They always speak about regulations as though that's going to help everyday people. What it does, it actually increases cost, and it's a way to keep out the small guys.
Well, let's talk about some of the things Elizabeth Warren and the rest of the Democrats believe need to be included in this CV relief bill. Okay, the first one, rather shocking. I mean, the laundry list that they've included is, it's ridiculous. No voter ID to get a ballot. An anonymous ballot harvesting. How does this correlate to the pandemic, and how would this affect your campaign, your race?
Well, I think there's another provision in the bill also for going cashless, right? To creating a digital cash for the...
Creating a digital currency, a digital U.S. dollar. That's another point as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What I believe is happening right now before our very eyes is the invisible enemy, quote unquote, coronavirus, is being exploited, and this is all very well planned to execute all the imperialist agenda of the deep state. So you want to eliminate all borders. That's what essentially eliminating voter ID, IDs is. I mean, I was shocked. I never voted in my life because I didn't care for electoral politics. When Trump ran was the first time I voted because I liked the fact that he was a disruptor and he was going after both parties. And I remember going to vote. They didn't even ask for my ID. I said, you don't need my ID? They go, nope. Total opportunity for cheating. These things like the cashless society, again, they're using the fact, oh my God, we don't want people passing viruses by touching cash, right? It's basically a pretext for essentially going to negative interest rates. They own our money. Nothing is tangible. Everything is tracked. Everything you use is monitored. It's basically the advance of top-down rule. The 5G issue, I've been asked what do I think about from a health standpoint. I haven't had a chance to go into that, but I can tell you 5G is an opportunity to put cameras everywhere with AI, the same AI we gave to the Chinese to watch lip movements, so you can understand what people are saying. It's not a future of innovation, it's a future of using technology to head us into the dark ages. When you suppress free speech, you basically move to scientific consensus. There's no more scientific method, which means you actually have to do experiments and find the hard thing of what's actually taking place. With scientific consensus, you can create lies, and from which you can use to create a fake problem and a fake solution. Oh my God, CO2 is a pollutant. Fake problem. And you create a fake solution. We need to impose, carbon tax. Well, the real solution is we need to lower pollution. And the Paris Accords allows China to pollute, going from 11 billion carbon metric tons to 22. India gets to pollute. Fake problem. Oh my God, these viruses are going to kill us all. No, it's fake problem. The real problem is we have immunocompromised people. The real solution is how do we beef up the immune health of people? Well, that means we have to attack corruption because these corrupt lawyer lobbies politicians are the ones who destroyed our air, water, and food. So they don't want to talk about that. They rather move this thing to control you, quarantine you, vaccinate you. This is a black and white choice. Do you want truth, freedom, and health, or do you want power, profit, and control? That's where we're at. And a lawyer and a lobbyist is not going to deliver that.
I know that this interview is going to go viral, much like a lot of your other work has, because we've touched on so many points here that are critical to this very moment in American history. I mean, we've been going on for, I think, over 80 minutes now. This was supposed to be a 30-minute interview, but I'm really happy that we were able to give you a platform here to present these ideas. We're going to make this thing viral. Everyone watching right now, please make sure you go to the website. It's on the screen, shiva4senate.com. Dr. Shiva, before we go, do you have any final thoughts?
If people want to understand everything I've talked about it and to keep it simple, if you can take a piece of paper and draw a triangle, on the bottom left, put a little ball there and put freedom. On the top of it, put truth. And the bottom right, if you put health. Now, all of these things are connected. So let me explain. It is from freedom that we can unravel truth. And it is from truth we can figure out the health for our bodies, our infrastructure, our society. And it's only when we're healthy do we have the warrior spirit to go fight for our freedom. People who make something, who create something, have skills, they're really our future. Because they get that climate change was a CO2 hoax.
Friends watching right now, I want you to hit the links below. And if this interview inspired you, I want you to consider sharing it right now across all of your social networks. As always, we will continue the discussion in the comment section below, and that's where we'll see you next time. For the Next News Network and Dr. Shiva, I'm Gary Franchi.